So I wanted to talk to you about simplest radical form today. So in your math notes, in lesson 5.2.1, so right at the start of the second section in chapter 5, these are the math notes. And while some of the homework references them, we have not talked about them, and so I don't think it's very fair for me to give you problems with them. So I wanted to go over this and do a couple more examples in order here and explain it instead of just having it there for you to read. So I'm not going to really read this to you, but basically simplest radical form is a way to rewrite radicals so that they're cleaner, and then makes it easier to do math with and clean up the problems, because when we didn't have calculators, we needed it to be as clean as possible. It was important, okay? And so that's what we're kind of dealing with here. And so they did an example of the square root of 45. Now it's right here, whatever, but I'm going to think about 45. So what we know is 45 is a number. Yay. I know that 45 is 9 times 5. So that's the first thing I do. And what I want to do is look for numbers I can actually take the square root of. So I could have used 3 times 15. But I can't take the square root of 3 or 15 without a calculator. But I can take the square root of 9 without a calculator. So once I have this, I can rewrite that as square root of 9 times the square root of 5, because that's fine. And the square root of 9 is 3. And so we say that the square root of 45 in simplest radical form is equal to 3 radical 5. Now your ability to do this is not critical. It's important, we're going to use it quite a bit, but it's not critical. And so when I say that, what I'm saying is, well, we're going to use it, well, we're going to do this, well, we're going to try it. If you never get this down, you'll have a calculator, it'll be okay. But it's multiple choice answers and trying to pick out the right multiple choice answer, that's what this is going to be helpful for. So you'll notice that's exactly what happened here, is that. And you can check with your calculator, those are both the same. Then they did another example. Now I'm just going to do another example. So let's just get another example out here. We're going to do the square root of, I don't know, 27. So the square root of 27. And so what I do is I think, in my brain, I'm just thinking 27 is 3 times 9. Well, cool, one of those is a perfect square. So I'm going to take the square root of 3 and the square root of 9. The square root of 3 is, I don't have a clue. When I grab a calculator, I get 1.7 at something, so it's not a nice number. The square root of 9 is 3. So whether I know that or not, my calculator does. Now this is a weird way to write it, so we would then rewrite that as 3, this 3 going first now, square root 3. And so that's how that happened. Let's try again. The square root of 24. Now there are some numbers, which is the second example on the math notes, that are harder to do. 27, 3 times 9, that's one of the things you're going to think of. And 27 is not really anything else that we break apart, because it's 1 times 27, 3 times 9. Those are the only factors. 24 is a little harder. So 24 we can do 4 times 6. Right? Or 3 times 12. Or actually, I'm going to back up. We're not going to use that. We're going to use 48. It's important that I use a different number. 48. So 48 is even harder. It's 4 times 12 though. So that's one place my brain might go pretty quickly. And so the square root of 4 is there, and then the square root of 12 is here. And then I've got 2 square root 12. Unfortunately, this is not fully done, because square root of 12 can be rewritten as 4 times 3. And so then I have 2 square root 4 times square root 3, which gives me 2 times 2 times square root 3, which is 4 radical 3. And this is where simplest radical form becomes really difficult, because we don't see those right away. The best way to do this one would have been to rewrite it instead as 16 times 3, which is probably not one that's on the top of our head, but it works better. So what I like to do when I'm dealing with these problems so that I don't have to think as much, maybe know as, you'll notice I get the same result much faster with the green method than I do with the blue method, is kind of divide by prime numbers. So let me go with 126. Giant number, don't know. So I'm going to start by saying, okay, well, does 2 divide into it? Does 3 divide into it? Does 5 divide into it? So those are the 3 I check, 2, 3, and 5. Those are my first ones I check. And what I'm looking for is the other number to be a perfect square. So 5 does not go into that number, okay, because it doesn't end in 5 or 0, so that one's out. 3 does go into that number. 3 goes into, it's 3 times, let's see, 5, 12, 54. Neither of those is a perfect square. 2 goes in to it 81 times. Oh, there's a perfect square. So I'm looking for perfect squares. Hopefully I know what they are well enough to recognize them. I'm like, oh, there it is. It's 81, perfect square. And so this can be rewritten as 81 times 2, the square root of 81 times the square root of 2, which is 9 times the square root of 2. Because once I do the square root, I'm finished. And that makes it a lot easier to do if you kind of think of it that way. So I always just check those 3 numbers first. Every now and then I'll have to throw in a 7, maybe an 11, but the prime numbers tend to get me someplace pretty quickly because it works. And you know, if I had, let's say 2 hadn't gone in nicely and gotten me for the square, let's say they all weren't. Like let's say we have 2 times 27, which is 54. Then I would have 3 times 3 goes into 54, 1, 16 times, no, not 16. And 18. So this one's not working me. 5 won't go in, 7 doesn't go in, 11. So this one didn't work. 54 made it painful. And so now I have to kind of break it down again. So then I go to one of these 2 numbers and divide it again. So this one is actually 6 times 9 is the I need. But most of the time, this other didn't work. So this didn't work. I had to go down here, and I probably wouldn't think of that one. But I did. This divided by 3 gives me 9. This divided by 2. So there it is. So this is the one I would use. Yay. But that's the idea. So simplest radical form is fine. And if you get it, awesome. And if you don't, not the end of the world. But there you go. There's a quick hit lesson on what it is. I'll see you guys soon.